Hi, well, welcome to One Simple Recipe, where we hope to get you one step closer to better health. I'm Judy Matusky. I'm a registered dietitian and a culinary nutritionist with Athens Nutrition. So it's good to be here again. Every Thursday at 11:30, we are back bringing you a simple recipe, although today it's actually going to be a version. It's basically one kind of technique, but 4 different recipes. And I'm hoping to, again, encourage you to have more fish in your diet, on your plates, and enjoying that. And some of us, I think, don't cook fish because we're just not sure how to do it. We're afraid of overcooking it. It's easier to order it out. And in fact, it is the healthiest fast food. So you can just keep, fish fillets in your freezer and pull them out and have them and to put a meal together in sometimes under 10 minutes. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. I am using salmon today for all of the recipes. And I am using individual salmon fillets that were frozen that I have defrosted. Now you can do this from frozen. So even if you forget to take your fillets out of the freezer, you can make this even from frozen fillet. It's just going to take a little bit longer. All right, we're going to do 2 different methods. The first one is going to be roasted. The second is going to be a broil, using the broiler. So we're going to start with the roasted one. So I want to get that going because that's going to just take a few minutes longer than the broiled method. And we're doing 4 different versions of this. So we have 2 recipes that we're going to do that's going to be with using salmon that we're roasting. And then we have 2 different recipes that we're going to use. Excuse me, one second. Let me just flip this on. We're going to use 2 different recipes that we're going to put under the broiler. All right, so let's start with the first one. I kind of have a whole bunch of stuff out here on the counter, and I'll just kind of show you. None of these are difficult. Simple ingredients, most of which you probably have in your pantry, and it's just pulling together different seasonings and to create these little sauces that we're going to brush on the salmon, just to give the salmon, a little bit of a different flavor. All right, so the first one that we're going to do is called a chili crisp salmon, and I came across this one in the New York Times cooking section. Again, I'm always looking for different ways to kind of assemble different ingredients to create these easy sauces for fish. All right, so the first one, basically, it's just 3 ingredients. I'm using soy sauce. I've got tamari, which is a little bit lighter in sodium if that's something that you need. And it's also, tamari is also gluten-free. So I tend to like this over just regular soy sauce. And then I'm using this chili crunch oil. This is the S&B brand of chili crunch oil. It says crunchy garlic with chili oil, but basically I like it because it's more mild. So I usually like my chili crunch oils to be on the mild side, then I can up the heat and the spiciness as I desire rather than starting with one that is really spicy, but that's certainly up to you. So if you love the spice, whatever brand you enjoy, and then we're going to use honey for sweetness. All right, so I already did this. So I just put it in a little bowl. Basically it was a tablespoon of the chili crunch, a tablespoon of the soy sauce or the tamari, and then 1 teaspoon of honey. That's all that's in here. Now this is enough for 4 salmon fillets. Because I'm doing 4 different recipes, I'm using 1 fillet for each recipe. So I'll have a lot of this left over, which is great because any of these leftover sauces can be used with eggs and chicken and tofu, and you can use them in a lot of different ways. So if you're doing 4 fillets, you'll be using up the whole, all of the sauce. All right, so let me pull over my roasting tray. So this is, I just have it with a parchment lined sheet, and I'm going to just show you a couple of things as we put this together, because there's a couple little tricks and hacks that you can do that just make then pulling this meal together even easier, especially when you're doing fish and you want it to be, you're trying to get this on the table relatively quickly. All right, so I have my this first iteration here of our chili crunch and soy sauce, and I'm going to just brush it over the salmon and just get a little pastry brush that you have. And again, this is enough easily for 4, so I'm obviously going to have plenty left over. Now I am double dipping in this, so because I'm using my brush and going back in, I'm not going to want to probably reuse this because I'm just so crazy about food safety issues. So if you want to reuse your sauce, then I wouldn't put, don't put your brush back into the sauce, which is what I just did. Okay, so I have that on the 1 salmon. Now with this, I'm also going to be adding some cut scallions, just to add some extra interest to this meal. And I'm gonna just line them up over here, basically. And because they're on the same tray with the fish, and because I'm roasting them, it's okay now to go back into the sauce. I'm gonna just dab a little bit of this over top of the scallions, because they're gonna roast and cook, so there's no real cross-contamination going on here with this. All right, and that way these little scallion pieces will have an interesting flavor, and they'll go nicely with the fish. They'll roast right off with the fish. All right, and then for the other fillet, this one is just a tandoori spice blend. And it's just basically tandoori seasoning with, let me grab another spoon here, with a little bit of oil. And I'm just using olive oil. So this was a tablespoon of a tandoori spice blend with 2 tablespoons of oil. That's what's in here, super easy. Now, tandoori spice blends, well, you know what, let me get this in the oven, and that's okay. I don't have another brush here, so I'm just gonna use this same brush. All right, same thing, just gonna brush this right over. Again, the same thing applies as far as this was enough for 4 salmon fillets, the sauce that we made. I'm only gonna do 1. Now, another little hack you can do is when you're roasting your salmon, go ahead and add some vegetables to your tray so you can roast them at the same time. Now, if you're using fresh vegetables, and even these are frozen cauliflowers, chopped cauliflower. You could do cauliflower rice too, but this is frozen cauliflower, and I defrosted it because I was hoping to make so this would cook quick. Cook at about the same time that the salmon does, which is going to be probably around 12 minutes or so, give or take. And it all depends on the thickness of your salmon. Kind of want to have equal thickness if you can. If there's a little tail hanging off the end, flip it under so that it makes it a little bit thicker, so that the whole thing is a little bit closer in thickness. These are fairly thick fillets. They might take a little bit longer than 12 minutes. But anyway, I'm just gonna put this cauliflower right on the tray. What I was saying, if you're gonna wanna use like maybe some fresh vegetables, or even if you're cutting up potatoes and wanna roast them as well with this, I usually give them a head start on the sheet pan. So if I'm doing vegetables or potatoes and I want to use the same sheet pan, I usually will put them on the sheet tray, pop it in the oven, which is set at 425, and I'll give them a good 10 minutes head start, maybe a little longer depending on the type of vegetable that you're using. I'm doing the same thing with the cauliflower now. Since I have the sauce, I'm just going to dot the cauliflower with a little bit of this extra tandoori and oil seasoning. So that the cauliflower has a little flavor to it as well. All right. But anyway, I would do the vegetables first, put them in the hot oven, 425 for 10 minutes or so, then bring it out and then nestle your fish in there and then put it back in for another 10, 12 minutes. Again, depending on the thickness of the fish, it's really gonna dictate. So that's it. I am gonna do a little sprinkle of salt because I didn't really have salt in, except, well, I guess there's a soy sauce, but added to the tandoori. All right, so this is going in. I'm gonna pop it in. I'm gonna set the timer for 12 minutes, 425, and we're gonna let that go. We'll see how that plays out. And again, when you're cooking fish, so much of it has to do with the thickness of the fish. So you just have to kind of check it. So it might take 10 minutes. It might take 12. Probably won't take 15 at 425, but you can check it. And the other thing with fish, and I feel like we don't have, we're all home cooks. We're not experienced chefs. We're not professional chefs in our kitchen for most of us. And that's okay. And even chefs will tell you this, that they overcook their fish too. I mean, it's just one of those things. So if you're making fish, whether you're broiling it or baking it or roasting it or whatever, yes, there's a chance you might overcook it, and that's okay. If it's just a little bit on the drier side, it's still going to taste good. Maybe you need a little bit more of the sauce, maybe a little bit of yogurt, maybe you just need something just to help with the moisture content of it, but just kind of keep an eye on it and just check it, and I'll show you kind of what I do to check the fish. But I'm okay if I overcook it. Chances are you're not going to overcook it by that much, So, and the more you do it, the better you get. But it is hard because, It just depends if the fish is kind of cold before it goes in there. Now, if you were going frozen fillets and putting them directly on the sheet tray and just putting the sauce on top of them, then I would, you're going to probably have to add maybe another 10 minutes to this, at least another 5 minutes, let's say, to allow that fish to defrost before it starts to roast. So you can go directly from frozen to the sheet tray. You can do the same thing with frozen vegetables, which I did not know that. You can take any frozen vegetable, put them frozen on a parchment-lined sheet tray, a little olive oil and a little salt and pepper, you know, if you want to, and then put them in the oven. They'll roast up and they'll crisp up just like fresh vegetables do. They just take a little longer because they kind of have to go through from the frozen to the defrosted to the roasting stage. So that might add another 5 minutes, but again, you just kind of have to check. All right, so we have the 2 roasted salmon fillets in the oven. You know, the one was with the chili crunch, soy sauce, and a little honey. The other one was with the tandoori seasoning, which I wanted to mention that you can buy tandoori seasoning, which is just a blend of, could be as little as 6 spices to as many as 12, depending on the recipe. I have so many spices in my spice cabinet, and you may as well. I always just make up my own spice blends. I find kind of a recipe online, and I follow it and I put it together. So this is just a tandoori spice blend that I mixed together with. This probably has maybe 8 different spices in it. It's, you know, it's a mix of cumin to turmeric to a little bit of cayenne chili to a little nutmeg. You know, it's a pretty wide blend of seasonings, a little garlic powder. So I have that and I label it and it goes in my pantry. The other thing is, same thing. I have some baharat, which is sort of a Middle Eastern spice blend that I use. There's some shawarma spice blend, which is an Indian spice blend. Garam masala. All of these you can buy already blended. So please do. That makes it a little bit easier. But for me, because I have all of these individual spices to be able to put these together, I just do it, label them, put them in there. And then I don't really make that much because I don't go through them that quickly. But all of these are terrific on, you could do the same thing. You could do a tablespoon of all of these with a little bit of oil and put those on the fish. You can put this on these, sprinkle these on eggs, sprinkle these on, sometimes I'll just do my vegetables with a little olive oil, a little salt and pepper, and then a little bit of these spice blends, and I toss it together and then I roast them on the sheet tray. But I do like having this kind of variety of different spice blends. They're slightly different in the types of spices that are being used in the blending of the spices, but they're kind of fun to have around, but you certainly can buy them as is. You don't have to make them. All right, so that's, oh, and this is one that I was just recently in Mexico with my daughters, and this Tajín spice mix, which is basically like dried lime and chili peppers and salt, is so good. I can't believe I've never had it before. And I had it when we were there, and I'm like, what is this? So I had to get some when I got home. This is amazing because you can just sprinkle this on before or after almost anything, and it really gives it a real boost and kick of flavor. All of these things are what we would consider to be flavor bombs, right? So we're creating flavor with small amount of ingredients that you probably have on hand to really give things a little bit of a boost. All right, so next thing we're going to do is let's put together we have 2 salmon recipes now that we're going to broil. Now, broiling is a little bit trickier because you really do have to keep an eye on things because broiling is such an intense heat. It's kind of like an upside down grill. You know, the heat's on the top rather than on the bottom. So the flame is going to be about 6 inches, which I found with most ovens. I think if you put your rack about 1/3 of the way up in the oven, for me, there's a top little rack place where I could put the rack at the very top. That's a little too close, but it's the second one down, and that's about 6 inches from the flame. And that seems to be the pretty standard place for most broilers, which I think gets to probably, 500 degrees, I believe. So it's a very, very fast way of cooking fish, or anything for that matter, but You do have to keep a little bit more of an eye on it because of that. You might have to, you know, change the position of the sheet tray halfway through. But it does make this really nice crispy top. So it's kind of fun. So we're going to play around with it. And again, I just play with this. I don't say that I'm an expert in cooking fish. I just do it, and then, you know, and see how it works, and play around with it if it doesn't the next time. All right, so the 2 recipes we're going to do with broiling is we're going to, before I get to that, is absolutely with broiling, you have to use a foil-lined baking sheet. I mean, you don't have to line your baking sheets, but I do because it just makes cleanup so much easier. I have made the mistake and I put parchment on, but because it's so close to this hot flame, it will burn. It'll catch on fire. So no parchment, foil only when you're broiling. In the oven, if you're roasting, you could do either one, but certainly not with broiling because that parchment paper will burn. All right, so the first one we're going to do is super simple. It's just like a red curry glaze with a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of olive oil. So the red curry, it's this Thai kitchen red curry, and I know that it's probably reversed for you, but a red curry paste, it's in any supermarket. I always have it in my pantry. Talk about a flavor bomb. This is pretty intense and pretty amazing, but it's not hot and spicy. So we need about a tablespoon, which is really pretty much the end of my jar here. So I'm just going to put what's in here in the bowl. And I love this. I just think it's amazing in a lot of different sauces. Again, you could just do this with a little bit of olive oil and add this and thin it, and then use it just to like drizzle over some eggs or with a frittata. It's just a nice little thing to have, another little flavor bomb to have in your refrigerator. It's in your pantry before you open it, but once you open it, you start it in your fridge, and it lasts a pretty long time. So I think you'll find a lot of different ways to use it. This is probably one of my favorite ways to use it. All right, so we have a tablespoon of that. I think it's a tablespoon of oil. Let me double check, yeah. So we'll do a tablespoon of olive oil with it. If you could use another type of oil as well, but I just always cook with olive oil. You could use canola oil, you could use grapeseed oil, whatever. But I always have olives, so that's really my go-to. All right, and then it's just a teaspoon of brown sugar, which I just already measured out. All right, so that's here. And that's it. So we're just gonna mix this around. Again, another 3 ingredient. A lot of these are just 3 ingredients, if not less. So stir it around. And again, this really is enough for 4 fillets. Believe it or not, you don't need that much because the flavor is so intense. If you want a little more of this on your individual salmon fillet, then you might want to double this recipe, and you could have a little bit of a thicker kind of coating of this. But you know, a thin one is fine, at least for me. So anyway, all right. So we have these are our salmon fillets, and for broiling especially, I tried to pick 2 that were as close to the thickness as possible so that they will get done. You would have a bigger tray, like a regular size sheet tray, and there'd be 4 lined up if you're going to do 4 fillets. So I'm going to do 1 with this curry glaze, and then we'll do a different one for the second one. So again, just rubbing this on. All right. I'll probably use a little bit more because I'm only doing 1 fillet. But we'll put that on, and this will brown. This will get pretty dark under the broiler because of the sugar, you know, it'll caramelize. And when you think about these sauces, the one thing with these sauces is we're really kind of combining, a couple of different flavors to create this, these sauces. So we have like some acidity, whether we're using lime juice or we're going to add yogurt later. We're using some sweetness, and you'll see that we're using 3 different things for sweetness. So we're going to use honey. Here we're using brown sugar, and we used honey in the first one, and then we're going to use some maple syrup, and then we use brown sugar. So 3 different ways to sweeten, and then a little bit of saltiness, you know, from our soy sauce, or adding salt to it, or the chili crunch oil is a little bit salty. And then you want to just have says it's 12 minutes. And then, so you want maybe some acidity, some spiciness from whether you're using cayenne pepper or the chili crunch, you know, a little bit of acid is always nice as a flavor bend, and then a little bit of sweetness. So those are kind of what you're doing, and it's whether it's, you know, 2 to 4 ingredients to create these sauces. It's pretty simple. So we have the red Thai curry paste. We have that on our salmon. And then the second one that we're creating is going to be a miso glazed salmon. So this one's kind of fun. I love miso. This is white miso. I have it in my refrigerator all the time. I've mentioned before. It's just so phenomenal. I put it in my pasta. I just made some pasta the other night and I put it in there. It was so good. And I also, what did I just make recently? It was, I made a ham and bean kind of soup, and I used the miso in that, and it was so good. It just adds such a nice intenseness of flavor. All right, I'm gonna check this. It is, let me pull it out, turn my thing off. All right, you can see, let me pull it over and show you. All right, so you can see where that's really, the scallions are crisping up a little bit, or at least they're roasting a little bit. The cauliflower, let me just get the cauliflower could probably use a little bit more time. I'm gonna, now that these are 8, remember when you pull things out of the oven, you know, there's sort of that residual heat. So things are gonna continue to cook out of the oven. So if you think it's pretty close to being done, then it probably is gonna be done because it's gonna keep cooking as it sits. I'm gonna just check this real quick. Let me just get let me just grab a fork. I'm gonna check this. And you just let me just do that for a minute. This needs a little bit longer. I just pulled it a little bit too hard, but if you know, you kind of just wanna flake it. And it's a little bit more, I guess, opaque in the inside. You know, it depends on how you like your salmon. I like my salmon well done. If you like your salmon a little bit not well done, then this might be fine for you. I'm gonna pop it back in and let it go for just a little bit longer. Let me set it for maybe max 3 minutes. I might check it before that. All right, so it just depends. And again, so that's the other thing. It depends on how you like your fish. I like it well done. So I'm gonna leave mine in. You might not. You might wanna pull it out a little bit sooner. Up to you. All right, so let's go back to our miso. So this is the white miso. I'm gonna use my fingers here. It says 1/4 cup. Seems like a lot. I might just use 3 tablespoons. And this, and then, again, this would be for 4 fillets. So that's our miso. And to that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. All right. Oops. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. All right, and again, it's worth measuring. You can eyeball it. I'm just gonna measure here for you guys. And then we are using 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, which is our sweetener, which I already have measured out, which I'm gonna pour right in. And then this one has a few more ingredients. Then just a little bit of ground pepper. You don't need salt because the miso, even though the one I have is a lower sodium miso, you still, you know, it's enough. And then just kind of a dash of some cayenne pepper. There's our heat. And then we're gonna add, for some acidity to this one, we are going to do half of a lime. Oh my gosh, this is a huge lime. I can't even get it in here. Usually the limes are so small. All right, so half of a lime. I had to put it in upside down because I couldn't fit it. So the juice of half of a lime, and then the juice of half of a lemon as well. It's a little smaller, that'll fit. All right, I'm gonna pull out my salmon. All right, so we have juice of half a lime, juice of half a lemon. This is coming out. I know this is done now. Yes, there you go. All right, so here are 2 roasted salmon fillets with a little cauliflower on the side and then some roasted, look at this, it's like a little potato chip. This is the scallion. If the longer you keep these in here, They really do crisp up, almost like vegetable potato chips. I like to keep my vegetables sometimes in here a little longer. So like I said, I think I would do the vegetables on the tray first, give it 10 minutes, bring it out, and then put the fish on. That way you'll get a little crispier roasted vegetables, but you can do it all on one sheet tray. You could certainly do it all on, you could do your vegetables on a second sheet tray, by all means, make more, and put those in ahead of time, and then just do your fish on the other sheet trays. Particularly if you're going to use more fillets, you might need to do 2 sheet trays. It just depends. Okay, I'm going to now set my oven to broil, and it's a high broil. So you can do low and high. That just gives you a way to regulate broiler temperature. I typically almost always do high. I don't really cook on low, but you could if you're finding that you're really, let me see if I can find that little list. If you find that you're really burning things, you might want to try broiling on low. See how it goes. The things are just going to take longer, but it gives you, there's room for error if you're on a low broil setting. It's a little bit, not so much when you're on the higher setting, but it's up to you. All right, so here's our little miso glaze. So it has the oil, the miso, lemon juice, lime juice, a little pepper. I think that was it. Yeah, a little dash of hot pepper. Oh, and some maple syrup for the sweetness. All right, so we're kind of combining all those flavors. All right. So this makes a lot. I'm going to use a spoon to just put it over top of the salmon because I don't want to. I do want to. I'm going to reuse this. You could probably, if you wanted to, this would probably make a great. Thin it a little bit. This would be a great salad dressing. That would be amazing. So I'm going to just take some out now, and I'm just going to put it over my salmon so I don't double dip here. All right, and I'm going to put that to the side. I'm just going to use the spoon. I'm just going to rub it around. I think that's good. Some of it's coming off it's rolling off the edges, which is fine. All right, let's just say that's fine. All right. So this, I'm definitely going to use as a salad dressing. I'll put that to the side. Now, you have half of your lemon and half of your lime because we only used half to get the juice. So take your lemon and lime. I just cut it in little quarters, and I'm going to put that kind of on the sheet tray as well, and I'm going to let them broil. I'm telling you, if you are roasting vegetables, put some lemon slices on there, or lime slices, or quartered lemons and limes, and roast them with your vegetables. I feel like, to me, that they get soft and it mellows the flavor a little bit. It's not quite so sharp when you roast lemons and limes, and then you can use it to sort of sprinkle over or squeeze over your fish or your chicken or your vegetables. All right, so here are our two, and they're really, really pretty too, because look, there's just different colors. So we have our red Thai curry glaze over here, and here's our miso glaze on this side, and then we just have the lemons and lime, there's some seeds in here, quartered, that I'm going to keep on this sheet tray so that might broil up a little bit as well. All right, so I have my broiler on, and I can see the flames. And sometimes it's like the oven, you do want to preheat this to get it to the correct temperature. But let me just put it in. It just might take a little bit longer. So this can go from anywhere from 6 minutes to 10 minutes. So there's a pretty wide range of time here. I'm going to start it with 6. All right. And we're going to, check it in between a little bit. All right, so we have 2 different methods. We're doing roasted salmon at 425 with 2 different glazes. We did the chili crisp glaze with chili crisp soy sauce, and the sweetener was honey. And that was that's here. Let me just show you. We'll go through this one more time in case you just jumped on a little bit later. All right, so we have the chili crisp salmon, which is on this side, with the scallions that we also put a little bit of the chili crisp oil over top, and we roasted that together. And then I'll show you how we'll serve that. Then we have the tandoori spiced chicken with sort of a tandoori spiced cauliflower that we roasted on the same tray. All right. And when you serve these, what I would do, it's not that, I guess it is a little bit hot. I would get a little bit of sesame seeds for your, which one? I guess you could do either one. But I would do the sesame seeds on the chili crisp, maybe a little bit on top of there, right? And then, since we had we roasted off some of those scallions, why not put then the upper green part of the scallion? We can sprinkle that over top of that. The tandoori the tandoori salmon, this is, again, another way to add flavor bombs. So we have several flavorful things going on here. Scallions add a nice little hit of flavor at the end. We're using them roasted and we're using them raw or fresh. So that gives two different flavors. Then for the tandoori, what's great would be some fresh mint chopped up. So I have parsley, so that I'm just going to use the parsley, but mint would be amazing on this. So a little fresh herbs at the end to add some freshness. Again, another little flavor bomb. And then I would take a little bit of Greek yogurt and a little dollop of that on top as well. Would be phenomenal. This is that little bit of that creamy kind of acid component. This is just plain yogurt. It doesn't have to be Greek yogurt, just plain yogurt on top. And, again, tasting for salt and pepper if you need to add that. But that is how I would sort of serve these two, right? So you have some fresh scallions and maybe a little bit of sesame seed on this side. And then the tandoori, I think the fresh mint would be great, but parsley, cilantro, whatever you have. Phenomenal. All right, so those are our two roasted ones. Put those off to the side. All right. Trying to think, a couple little tips that I just wanted to mention when you're doing this. Because again, these are very fast. Like you can see 10 minutes, 12 minutes max, maybe, to roast. If you're going to roast the vegetables, you might need at least 20 minutes to get those vegetables fully roasted. So you can do the fish as a fillet. Great. You could also take salmon and you could cut it into 1.5 inch cubes. And then same thing, but I would maybe put them in a bowl and then toss it a little bit gently with the sauce. And then put the cubes of salmon on your sheet tray and roast them that way. They're gonna probably cook a little bit faster, but it's nice because then they're already in these cubes. And it's one of the greatest things about making these kinds of dinners is that there's usually leftovers. So depending on how many you're making, but always make a couple fillets extra, or if you're gonna cube it, make a little extra, because then the next day you have these great leftovers to create a bowl with. So you can take your cubed salmon and some of your roasted vegetables, and if you have frozen brown rice, in the freezer, pop it in the microwave and make a grain bowl. So you have all these, and then again, don't double dip with your brush when you're making your salmon. And then you also have the leftover sauce. Chances are you'll probably have some leftover, and then that you can even toss into this grain bowl, and you have this phenomenal lunch the next day. So make sure you make extra, because that's just a great way to extend that. All right, so what else did I say? A couple of things about that. I would, sometimes, like I said, sometimes I will double the recipe for the sauce. If I'm finding that the sauce is just enough for what I'm cooking, I'll double it so that you can have extra to use it for grain bowls or for salads, or to use it when you're making eggs. Sometimes I'll get tofu. Sort of the same thing. You could do tofu, something like this. You could do tofu in rectangles and use the same sauces we just did and turn this completely vegetarian. And put and do your tofu and roast it like that. You could broil your tofu as well. And then you could use that tofu as leftover for, okay, let me just double check these. All right, so you can see they are broiling away and bubbling. Our lemons and our limes are already browning up. I would say, let's take a peek. This one fillet is a little bit This one, the miso, is a little bit not as thick as this one that we did. I'm kind of looking at it at the thickest point. And I don't know, again, I don't know if you can see it. And this is the only thing, the only problem with checking it with this fork like this is it does kind of like break it up. You have to kind of put it back together again. I am going to put it in for just a few more minutes. It's pretty close. So I could probably the residual heat, but I'm just gonna pop it in for another minute just because, as I said, I like my salmon a little bit more on the well done side. So don't be afraid to kind of use your broiler. I think everybody's just not sure about broiling because it is a little tricky. You just have to check it. I mean, again, your rack should be about 1/3 of the way down from in your oven. For me, it's the second little rack that I can slide in the brackets. There's the top bracket and then there's a second bracket. I put it on the second bracket and it puts it about 6 inches from the flame. You can use your broiler low or you can use your broiler high. If you're not sure, maybe start low and then get more comfortable with high. You just don't want to, broiling is not something you're going to put it in and walk away. You want to stick around in the kitchen when you're broiling. All right, I'm going to pull this out now. That extra minute, I'm positive is probably all that needed. All right, so here's our broiled curry paste salmon and red curry, and then here's our miso glazed salmon here on this side. All right, so in that little short amount of time, we have 4 different types of salmon with, kind of going in 4 different flavor profiles, which I think is kind of fun. You could even do that. If you wanted to do this for a dinner party, you can make different ones and then use your leftover sauce for another time. All right, so there's 4, fast and easy. It doesn't get any healthier than fish. Honestly, for fast food, I can't think of a faster way to do it. So you get some salmon fillets if you don't already have them and just play around. Don't worry if you overcook it. It's still going to taste great. That's, I think, everybody's biggest fear. And if you have any questions, by all means, reach out. We're always around here at Athens Nutrition to help you with any of your nutrition concerns. Just give us a call and we can set you up with an appointment. All right, stay well till next week. Next week, we're actually going to move into meatballs. I'm going to do a whole bunch of different styles of meatballs because I just think they're such an incredible little package of protein and they are so freezer friendly. So we'll be playing around with those starting next week. See you then.